Доброе утро, уважаемые коллеги. Мы рады приветствовать вас на 6-м конгрессе предприятий наноиндустрии.
So I would like to welcome you at the 7th Congress of the Nanotechnology. This is the basic platform for our industry. Today we will summarize the first 10 years of the development of the nano industry and our forecast for the future and the role in the development of the state. Ilya Kapilevich will be our moderator with Mr. Chubais, the head of Ros Nano, and you will also be able to answer the questions with the help of special tools. So participants of the public talk, so please come to the stage. Good morning. Good morning, dear friends and colleagues. And we will have about 1 hour so that I could ask Anatoly the questions that you may be interested in. There will be about good and bad things, about the numbers and about the people. And so that we do not take too much time for introduction, I will just start. 10 years, Mr. Chubais, this is a first important anniversary. The peculiarity of the nano industry is that we do not see it as by definition. That was exactly the idea. So it's very hard to show it, so we need to discuss it. So first numbers, what was accomplished within the 10 years? So do we have such an industry in Russia as a considerable important element of the Russian economy? Well, so this is a very right question. A very correct one. Moreover, we have people who are here for several years and they're creating the industry with their own hands. And if we look into the whole, and when was our first Congress, Andrei? It was 6 years ago. Of course, it's a different feeling, it's a different environment and energy, the amount of the companies and the maturity of the company and the products that we could see at the expo. And in our cooperation with estimated colleagues, we can see that the situation is evolving and has changed dramatically. And if we look at the official data, the official statistics, we all know those numbers. We are trying not to put too much focus on that, and the Russian Statistic Agency is providing official statistics every year. So we have the statistics for 2016. The nano industry in Russia, 1.6 trillion rubles. We could be just arguing about some numbers, and these are the numbers Rosstat is responsible for. If it's not very accurate, but this is a significant number for Russian economy, which, if I understand correctly, this year will be about 900 trillion Russian rubles. This is something already visible and significant. If it's almost 3%. No, it's too much. Why? 1 trillion, 900 trillion and 1.6. It's 0, 0. Who can make the division correctly? 1.6%, a little bit more. From 1.6% from 900, it's 1.86%. Well, this 900, just the number I have in my memory. So who remembers the GDP? Those who remember, just correct me. And then afterwards, divided by 1.6. So this is the scale of the business. If we take the numbers for our companies and projects and that we have on the daily basis within our corporation, last year it was 163 billion rubles, and no, 363 billion rubles, which is important. This is a different, bigger number. Another number, 363, is something which did not exist and which we created, and we can firmly say that 10 years ago there were no project companies in Rosnano, 363 billion, which is within our paradigm. It never existed before, and it exists now. These are the plants that we built from the scratch. We have 87 of them as of today. And the last indicator to be mentioned, worth mentioning here, answering to your question, is this is export activities. Export activities is always a demonstration, not of an abstract image, but of the structure of the products and the products which are on international markets. And here you cannot cheat. If on price you can compete for the quality price ratio, then you prove it with the export. The export volume last year, based on Rosstat statistics, is 290 billion rubles. So it's not bad. It's about 25% export from the GDP. This is $5 billion. Well, the biggest export industry in Russia, well, in high-tech, I wouldn't like to mention the oil industry. So the biggest export industry is the defense and the military industry. And the second biggest industry for export is software. And the third is nuclear power together with a nuclear machinery. These are the three high-tech industry. I'm not sure about the numbers. I remember 15 billion for the military and defense, and with the 5 billion, we are not among the top three industries, but we have estimations. They're available on our website as the growth rates of our exports are ahead of the growth rates for our colleagues. We believe that within the next 5 or 7 years, Russian non-industry, in terms of the export volumes, will become one of the top 3 high-tech industries for exportation. So the numbers that you mentioned, they are published, they're open. And there's one question based on that. The total value of the nano products is 3.6 billion, and 363 billion. These are the Ros nano companies, so which is 1/5. So was it? It was like that 10 years ago. Is it the correct correlation, given the fact that Rosnano was established using state funding? We had $10 billion of state investment. That was the biggest nanotechnology investment program. So, which means that the nano industry is growing by itself by 80%. Well, to my mind, this is a very good correlation. If we are in a situation where 90% of the nano industry would be created based on our investment, that would be too bad. It means that it would mean that all of this huge sector is based and maintained with the help of state funds, which is always a question mark, and it questions the health of the sector in general. I would just give an example so that you understand what I mean. One of the spheres that we work a lot is solar energy, and we could be talking for a long time about this, but we had a plant that we built together with Vexelberg in Chuvasha. It's one of the successful projects, 160 megawatts of capacities, and the panel of heterostructure, 27%, that we will now be more than the plant. We will move from 160 to 250 megawatts. And this is a technology and the product first. It's localized in Russia, produced in Russia. We updated the product line based on the Russian R&D. Then, after the production of the solar panels, we started the mass construction of solar stations, and it's like 7 or by now. And, from your perspective, from the perspective of your question, yes, guys, great, you're heroes, you did it. That was great. And who followed you? Were there people like that? Yes. In the end of this year, in Russia, we have the second or the first, we built the first completely private plant to produce and manufacture solar panels in Podolsk. So it's 150 megawatts, it's comparable capacity. So we are not related, we were involved in investment, we were not doing anything, not even expertise. So this is a very important positive factor for me. If we are just doing only this and that would be nothing after that, then it would be a question mark. And in a situation where the Russian and Chinese investors, they followed us, we were followed by the privates, and we are competing against them. There is, a huge competition for the tenders to supply the energy capacity. And, this is already a mature industry, and the private business is supporting the state actions. And, I don't think that this private sector would be the first to enter this sector. And for us, it was really a challenge. And but now I would be doubting about that. Just finishing my very long answer, sorry for that. The correlation between the state funds in terms of investment and private investment, I think now we have the correct and healthy correlation between the private and the state parts of the industry. Now, this state just invested 300 billion rubles. It was $10 billion at that time, and the revenue of the companies was 363 billion rubles, and this is the revenue of the Rosnano companies. So, and the revenue is 20% higher versus the investment. What would you say about such a financial result if it was just a private funding? Oh, if it were just private funding, then we should not calculate the correlation between the capex and the sales volume, the revenue. So in private funds, like all of those present now, it's calculated in a different way. This is the accumulated value of the portfolio versus the cost. We just, for the state, the production cost is important. If you're a foundation, so you're a private company, so you have this fund, and what is the value that you created with this money? And we are audited by the Big Four company, and the fair value is something that we are estimated at, and we do it twice a year. Once it is done by the audit of the International Monetary Fund. So for the first time of our history, the fair value of our portfolio investments, successful and unsuccessful, failed or successful, the total portfolio value for the first time exceeded the total costs. It used to be 64, 80, and then 90, and last year it was 101%. If we look at us in terms of investment, 3 billion. So no, I may be mistaken here. It may not be the accurate number. That was my just attempt to show off with my mathematics skills, but I am a philologist by education, so we forgive you, but we will remember that. Okay, the next question. in one of our interviews, and we have interviewed with you every year, so you mentioned that it was in 2009, you said that I cannot be an expert in innovative economy. In order to become an expert here, you need to make mistakes and take the learnings based on the mistakes. So what would you call the main mistakes we should talk about for the pleasure of the audience, so that our audience can make some conclusions? Well, this is good with that. We have a lot of experience, have many things to discuss here and to talk about, as we have a professional audience present here. So one of the learnings is that not everything which the journalists with philologic education and linguistic education believe are the mistakes are in fact the mistakes. Though sometimes it coincides, sometimes these are very different things. I will just give one example when we believe that this is a mistake, and when we coincide with you, and then there's a difference. So our biggest mistake was the polycranium. It is in Irkutsk region where we built polycranium plant. It was now manufactured in Russia, and it's not manufactured even now. When we started to build the plant, when we started to build it, it was $400 per 1 ton, and when we finished the construction, it was $20 per ton. So, you know, we could not do anything in order to change the situation and do something. Yes, we just managed to sell this plant. You know, we sold it to Sberbank, and then they found an investor. But our idea did not work out. This is a classical example of a real failure. And what was the reason for that? So there's a specific reason that the price went down. And why you could not forecast this wrong expertise? You did not listen to the scientists. No, the scientists are not involved. The scientists cannot be involved in such issues, and these are not the science. The reason was our bad work with the global analytics. It was 2010, 2012, that was the global crisis in solar energy in general and in production of the polycranium for the solar panels. And the reason was that within 2 years, China just launched more capacities for polycranium than you are present. Then massive bankruptcies in your ZAL1, these in the Silicon Valley, in China itself, there were lots of companies going bankrupt. No, planned economy can never make the right calculations, and they started to build many manufacturing inside. The first failed. There was a deep restructuring in the energy, and then failures in the US, in Europe, and we failed. That was the bad analytics.
And that was our evident event. So the mistake was not technological, but purely economic, when you didn't consider the data on competitors. Well, we couldn't just forecast how good, how dramatic the changes were going to be. We've heard what happened in China. So Grant, Chinese construct. And so we thought, okay, we'll be more efficient and we'll have less costly everything. But when Chinese started and they started expanding the market in rare earth materials and energy, machinery construction, even Siemens is now in a difficult case. That was our mistake. Did you have fails due to wrong technical or scientific expertise? So you funded the technology, but the results were not good enough. Well, more yes than no. Let me try to change the logic if you want me to describe what happened. Because because I'm going to bring about two examples. One of them, I think we have the same approach with you, the other one, but I think that decision taking is more important here, just to avoid mistakes. Yes, but I'm practically sure that people sitting here can also share their mistakes, and if you never make mistakes, you're not working in innovation sphere. But for instance, what can I share with you? And this I could refer to this kind of problem. Atacam, for instance. What happened there? Well, it's strange that may seem, but the company lives and it develops. And we are in alliance with one of the biggest producers of light diode and diode technique, and the company is developing. But if you look broader at this issue, actually we didn't reach the target was set initially, but no one else in the country managed to reach it. If you want me to dwell on it, I need 2 minutes at least. Sorry, the interviewer, it's his fault that I've changed the topic. So what happened with the light technique? We've witnessed, we now have a new breakthrough, which is called light diode lamps. The majority of all the lamps, even energy-saving bulbs, everything which existed before of sodium, of galogenic bulbs, all that is now substituted by diodes. Not this one, but this is a diode lamp, right? These are diodes. For sure, if we look around, not only in offices, but we use diode lamps and bulbs in cars. Then stop signal is also even. There are also diodes are used for surgical equipment. Diode lamps are used. The KPI is much higher, and the lifespan is much longer. So when we started that, we entered this sphere together with our other colleagues, and we also have scientific background. Jerez Alfyorov Nobel Prize for Get Restructure is it actually. And we started and tried to compete. No one could. We couldn't manage anything like this for light emitting diode in the country. All the projects which started collapsed, at least the ones I know. Why? For what reason? Chemical deposition is quite simple technologically. So, well, it is quite complicated, but very well known. All the projects in Russia include 3 to 5 or 10 of them. And it is a lot. And it turned out that we compete with TSMC from Taiwan, for instance, where they have 300 devices like that. You cannot compete costly with a serial business of 100, and whereas you have only 2 of them. Economically, it is impossible. And the projects were okay, and a lot of companies started. So the growth units, is the major thing. What we managed to preserve is part of the technological process. We couldn't preserve the diode lamps, the growth units, but fluorescence, we still have a note again. And I think we're the only company which still has it. I don't think that no one else of our colleagues could do it. And due to this point, our company still lives and it develops, and the market will be there. But it is a tough example when, huge cluster, like energy cluster, switches on to an absolutely different technology. And if you're on time, sometimes you can position yourself there quite okay. And if you position yourself well on the Russian market, then you can go internationally. But let me admit, your techniques, unfortunately, was not a successful example for us. There is something which is really very important in this story. There is market. What people buy from supermarkets. And this is the cereal market, and we are not there. And I think that if we take any product, this situation will be the same. Nano industry is developing there. We produce new elements. We produce some particular products of what was earlier called Group B. But all the attempts to get to the market, to the consumers market, so that people can see our products on the shelves of the supermarkets, unfortunately they're unsuccessful. Can be, maybe we can do it. So, but keep in mind, just didn't give me the opportunity of answering the second question. Well, I do it. I'll try to answer your third question then. But this question is really very tough for me, because this is the issue I'm trying to understand myself. So, clear enough, the majority of nano industry we're developing now, by its nature, is a B2B and not a B2C segment. Or, Kakapelevich said, it is what was called Group A and not Group B. The young people already do not know this classification, but we still remember it. This is all true. Nanotechnologies are materials or some covering, some membrane, some coats, and this is a B2B and not B2C. There's nothing bad in it. Very often we're criticized. Guys, could you show what you have produced? Where? What supermarket I can buy it? And I try to understand. We have chips and bio passports. We have packages for mayonnaise, for sausage, our windows, energy saving, and you can see them in some houses. But this is the minority who understands it. The majority do not. But this is so to say, superficial answer. This is not what we're going to do. This is not what we should do. So just don't ask me stupid questions. But if you take this issue more broadly, we can name what actually emerged within recent 5, 10, or 25 years, Russian national projects. Technonikol is a good. They do dies for the roof. There is a very good Ural team from Urals. They manufacture some instruments. Endoscope, is it? We probably can remember some 4, 5, maybe 10 companies. I'm not speaking about nanotechnologies now, but the Russian business, which has made global brands, even Russian brands, in B2C segment. No more. Then the reason is much more protruded. B2C does not only include science, but design, marketing. For instance, if you manufacture a TV set, it should have advertisement in itself. What do we have historically in this country? Let's see what we had in the times of Soviet Union. It's common knowledge they had a lot of great technological advances: space, nuclear bomb, and nuclear energy. Could you please name any high-scale, well-promoted, successful product from USSR in B2C segment? Fridges? Saratov or Birюса, what do you prefer? No, I would not name this kind of product. But do you remember anything really tremendous? Победа, the car. Well, did we have Победа going around the whole world? No, come on. There was actually one product, the Soviet consumer good of the new class, that was Jeep Niva, and it is just one of the first successful Jeep cars for consumers, and this is the only one. No one. You remember when Soviet people came to their shops? What did they ask? Do you have anything foreign, not from Russia? That was the very first answer. And if the shop assistant said there is a lot of national production, they said no. No, please. What was the radio for the Russians? Grundig, but no Russian radios. Why was it like this? The whole Soviet economy was made so as to make great products only if they are necessary and were necessary for the state. Space, nano, and nuclear bomb, that was well solved. We had also Sharashka, so people who worked being not free, actually, kind of imprisoners. I would not recommend to repeat this kind of advances of those times. But for B2C segment, the motivation should be different. The motivation we had for 75 years, the whole culture excluded the whole opportunity of producing and creating good consumer goods. And in recent 25 years, we couldn't hinder that barrier. This is my point of view. Maybe you have different points of view. So I think that the reasons go much deeper. Still, the Russian market has worked wonders in recent 25 years. Chemicals, oil chemistry, engineering, things, a lot of them so complicated have been produced by the private market, but consumer market will probably need more. But what is so my next question is: so when media see something is very, very bad, but it is. What is it? Not a breakdown. I have a good friend. What's his name? Navalny. Alexei, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So he's calculated everything, and not long ago, he also attacked Czechoslovak company, as he usually attacks Chubais. He tried to refer it to half an hour. He couldn't. But, you know, this company does not exist. It stopped its activity for many years, and it has nothing to do with Chubais. But the electorate, people, they liked it. But let us move to very specific things. Flexible electronics. And we have a factory which is called Plastic Logic. Do we have it? Yes. And it starts 100% load, and it is the hugest producer of flexible screens. It is based on nanotechnologies, and in both companies, the property is all ours. And this is not because we want to do it, but other partners, they just, you know, couldn't bear costs for so many costs, and they left the project. But why don't we think it was a breakdown? Unlike silicon, we didn't start constructing plants. We had the equipment, we had the technology, and we were ready to construct a plant. But the decision was not to construct it. Concerning PR, well, it looked like a breakdown. You know, that Chubais, he just wanted to have a laptop, and it showed it to Putin, but there is no laptop now. But really, we had the technique, we had the experience, but it couldn't be it couldn't compete. And at that very time, iPad appeared. So what can media say? They've shown the laptop, tablet, and we don't have it. But the common sense says, guys, we should go somewhere. We have the Russian Center for Flexible Electronics, and we're going to transfer our techniques, Plastic Logic, Flexible, and we'll add two new advanced technologies for that. And I think this huge cluster for flexible electronics, which has been discussed for 15 years, in 7 years, and can be a really realistic type and part of electronics. If we do not make mistake, Russia can be one of pioneers in this sector of microelectronic. Can Russia be a leader in the whole sector for microelectronic? No, forget it. I am the person who constructed Micron, with sales of 5 billion. I am quite experienced person, but no, we are not. Russia will not be a leader in this segment. But the new segment, which can occur in a big sector, this flexible electronic in correct transfer to Russia, if everything is okay, this can turn into really significant product. So nanotechnological cluster we have now. So flexible electronic cluster, we think one of the 5 new clusters. Then let's go to the room. Let our audience ask questions and vote. So our first question for voting interactively. So you have the buttons. So the branches of chemistry you think more prospective. So let me voice. Number one, pharmacy and biotechnology. Number two, so what do you think more perspective? Number two, renewables. Renewable sources of energy. Number two, car production and metal, space chemistry and oil chemistry, gas production, and the electronics, and the last one for other kinds and other kinds of branches. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Anatoly, you cannot influence the vote, but what is your point of view? I'm absolutely glad seeing these figures because I practically think the same. Let me not comment everything, but let me comment on the first two branches, which are most significant for us. It is enough to say that last year, the speed of consumer market in pharmacy development was 15%, but we had 25% growth in pharmacy the production development. Nanolek companies here with great business in the city of Kirov. Novomedicas, which work together with Pfizer, and we construct a factory. I am absolutely convinced that pharmacy already has a positive dynamics, and this will develop for 5, 7, or 10 years minimum. And I agree with the colleagues' assessment. Renewable energy sources, this is our favorite branch. Shortly, solar industry has been started up. This whole discussion has been completed. There's no room discussing for and against in the world, and here we have the production and we construct the plants, and I'm sure that we'll have the figures up to 2023. They're in development now. Winter energy. A year ago, I kept saying the year 2017 would be the year when that will be turning year for winter energy. And we've passed it, I can say now, at the end of 2017. So last February, 35, next February, 35 megawatt winter power plants was 100 million capex. Tatarstan, Ulyanovskaya Oblast, so we'll start. Rosatom is our competitor. Well, I'm kidding. Together with us, they are in this industry. But Rosnana, and I'm proud of it, is the company #1 in it, and together with Vexelberg in solar and wind energy, we are #1. But we have competitors, and there is private business besides us, and the new branch, which is the processing of disposals, and we're going there with Rostec today, 13.6. I absolutely agree with this assessment. The whole Russian market of renewables, thanks to the support we have, thanks to anti-people, as they say, reform, has its benefits. So solar energy, winter energy, and processing is really well developing, where we have not optimistic products, optimistic prognosis for development. Clear enough, 2.2% is the most optimistic view, but the pharmacy will be developing much better. Mr. Chubais. I think we've discussed a lot about our negative experience, and we should have a lesson from that, but maybe something positive. Could you bring about an example we can be proud of? Do I have an hour? Well, about 3 minutes. Well, it's life. You want more weak points and disadvantages. Okay, let it be 3 minutes. Yes, we do have projects which we consider big, high-scaled, and we are proud of. Together with the colleagues, we managed to do it. Rosnano is investment foundation. We do not produce product. You produce product, and we help you. We are minority auctioneers in all the projects. So, where we succeeded.
And there's one project in B2B. This is a nuclear medicine, PET-CT. This is a story which is something which was only in the books 10 years ago. Now we have it in real life. And in 8 Russian regions, it's not Moscow. And in Moscow, it will be done without R, starting from Lipetsk and then in Taliati last week. So the PET-CT center. So early diagnostication of cancer at the first stage, 80% survival rate, and at the 4th stage, cancer is 20% survival rate and mortality rate. So this is the main fact. So early diagnosis is the most important thing, and we know that treatment matters. And treatment is, of course, much softer and lighter for the first stage than for the 4th stage. And in Lipetsk, in Kursk, in Yekaterinburg, there were more than 40,000 people who had early diagnostics, and we save the people's lives because they could be treated at the early stage much easier, and they managed to survive. I think this is the highest respect for the team who accomplished that, irrespective of the business. So if you are interested, so we are ready to start bargaining. So this is about the B2C. So yes, it's not about industry, it's about people. And as for the industry, one of our most important project is nanotubes, monowalls. So this is a breakthrough project that was at the beginning of the nano industry. The biggest companies in the world were doing this. These are the big names, and they could not do it. They could not accomplish that. And we believe we are really successful here. This project, like any project, and I would like to repeat that, you can just eliminate everything in one day, so you can do something that it will no longer exist. You can destroy it. It's true about most innovative projects at this stage before the first billion of sales. So I'm not talking about the ways to destroy it, so that I do not give any hints to those who would like to do that, but this is true. For now, it's still alive, and we hope it will be developing. We produced the first ton of the product 3 years. Now, this year, we are producing 5 tons, and 50 tons we are producing next year, and then 5 reactors with 250 tons. This is the only industrial manufacturer which is an additive which improves electrical and mechanical properties of most material products, plastics, cement, and then metals. In the future, the scale of the market is huge. Today, we work with 75 out of the top 10 technological companies, and if we are not destroyed, and we can easily be destroyed. And who can do this? Who wants to destroy it? So these are the evil enemies. internal or external enemies? You know, these questions and hints, you know, it's like you are with an investigator. Where were you during the crime time? Do you have an alibi? No. No, please wait to see how it happens. Anything you say can be used against you, yes. And based on the 35th article of the Constitution, I have a right not to talk against myself. And so if we are destroyed, we are not destroyed, I hope. So this is the project which will be bigger than Gazprom in terms of the scale and in terms of the influence on the Russian economy. I would like to repeat, it can be destroyed, can disappear any day, but for now it's going quite well. So a very serious threat, a very serious thing. So we will keep close eye on the developments. Now let's talk about the economics of the companies. We have entrepreneurs and we have another technical phrase so that you think about the future. And I would ask you to take your buttons to vote. The first option, entering the international market as the main prospect for development on the home market. The third option, sale of its shares to another big player in the industry. I wouldn't work in the IT. I will start working in another industry. Please vote. So you see the leaders are changing, though it's more or less the same story now. I look at the screen. Well, 9% who would like to finish work in innovative economy. Is this a number that you would expect? It's too high a number. It's among the Congress participants. Well, in the first place, it's all wrong. So this is the wrong question. And so its classification using several criteria. The second and first answer is not an alternative to the second answer. If you would like to sell all of your business or part of your business, there's no impediment for you to become an international player. So this is not so this doesn't make a puzzle in my head. So it's very hard to comment on that. 9% that you asked about. This is awful. This is just awful. If among those people who are professionals, they understand this industry, and 9% are seriously saying, no, you know, this is alarming. Maybe you would ask those who are among those 9%, give us the list of those people. Maybe you could go on to the stage and explain, and then you could leave the hall. So just please explain your behavior. How could you do that? How come you finish like that? So maybe that was a computer mistake. No, this is only the beginning of the Congress. I think that gradually we could just start asking them about their reason. Now, what's important for us now? And the society needs to know about that. We wouldn't like people to quit this industry. Private business is a crime for many people in our country, and private innovative business, it's a double crime. So just if you identify such a person, just shoot him on the spot. In what way a crime? This is a crime with a special sin committed by a group of people in huge amounts of money with previous agreements. And, you know, this is a sign to you. And there is nothing that we would learn new here. If people hear us there, I would like you to really hear. This is an alarming fact. So maybe another 10 minutes of conversation. Important topics. How the infrastructure works, which is created by Rosnano for private companies in the industry, what has been achieved and what are the next plans. And this is the foundation for infrastructural training programs. So there is hard and soft infrastructure. The hard infrastructure, this is our nano center. We have 15 of them. Among them, there are leaders. Troitsk Nano Center is developing, and in Novosibirsk the same. This is one of our leaders. A good development in Zelenograd, perfectly developing Ulyanovsk, and the rest have room for improvement. But these are the birthplace, the incubators. We have 700 startups, right? Andrei, or 650, and this is serious, right? And it seems that we moved from the logics from just applying, making the applications. Now we just use the approach, let us do the startup together. We will get together, we will understand the startup, whether it makes sense or not, whether it's viable or not. That is the concept of our convey innovations within our new strategy, and how our colleagues are executing them. Andrei Finorenko and Ruslan Titov are in charge. I think this is a thing which is really efficient. We create the centers in Ulyanovsk, Novosibirsk, Zelenograd, and Troitsk, and there hundreds of new companies are being born. This is for serious, and there's a real companies. This is hard infrastructure, and we made the decision we are not building more nanocenters, new nanocenters. A living nanocenter is a combination of the people with unique competencies and qualification who are ready to do that, with the combination with the position of the region of the governor. If the governor is not for it, so we should not even make any attempts. And or it's not that when Putin comes, I will just show off. No, there are governments who are really serious about this, are real governors, and we are cooperating with them. We are not increasing the number of nanocenters. There are not. I don't think we need more of them, but we will continue our development. And our soft infrastructure is standardization, certification, training, education. And this is just a lot of things to do. Allow me to give you an example. My favorite wind energy. As I mentioned, in Ulyanovsk, we are building the wind power stations, 3.6 megawatts, and the tower is 96 meters length, and the 62 meters is the wing. So it gives us more than 100. And you see, we are not bad at math. So please, it's about me only. So the more than if it's a building over 100 meters, so these are unique buildings which require special expert certification, and we have 10 buildings like that, 10 constructions. It's about 500,000 in the world, and in line with our legislation, we need to get a special certificate for the state from the state expertise for each tower, because it's over 100 meter in height. So just there are lots of laws and laws which just exclude the possibility for this industry to emerge from technical and from the building and construction point of view. If we are really serious about the creation of the industry of wind power stations, we need a complete reformation of the technical regulations and specifications. We need to update several norms and standards. About 20 degrees from the government, and we need to update the construction code. But thanks God, so we have come to understand, and with the Minister of Construction, with Mr. Main, this is the part of the soft infrastructure. and we cannot create anything without it. It's not very visible, but it's a very important part of work for the wind nano industry. And we need to finish with something vital. Though you were just saying that these four answers are not interrelated, but still I see some connection. The first two ones, when I am good and I see the market for my products, and the second ones are options. I hope to sell and I want to sell. And the last answer was the fourth answer. I would like to sell it, but there is no one interested. Well, we were discussing the first two answers, and the last two answers, I would like to discuss them, just except for just the last one when I don't want anything in my life. 2 years ago, in one interview, you said that nano industry is now at the stage when the mid-sized companies with considerable revenue, with just a certain potential value. And for their further development, we need new, bigger shareholders who, and in Russia in 2015, well, there are very few shareholders like that, and nothing has changed dramatically. Maybe Rostech would like to buy some companies. They wouldn't like to get a credit for that. They need a co-investor. And you were talking about this 2 years ago, whether it's a relative problem, and is this an impediment for growth and development? So these people think more about on which market they would like to operate, and they should not be thinking about how to exit the business with a profit or without it. So first my comment and then answer your question. You are talking about the third option, about selling shares, attracting a new investor. This is a way of development. Well, I'm talking about this. I disagree. Wait. In an innovative business, unlike just a normal entrepreneurship, so the business that you grow, you're out of the business and invest in the new business, this is the basic part of the investment process. And exit from the business is not a betrayal of the interest, and you do not undermine your values. And the innovative business works in a different way from this standpoint. If there is a buyer, yes, I will mention that as well. And the colleagues who mentioned that they have the task to exit the business, which is very good. This is really good. The person who built innovative business and managed to sell it and is starting, well, other project, this is highest possible competence level in our Russian reality. Then now about answering your question, this is a serious problem for us. We've been working for 10 years, and naturally we have at the end of the first investment phase, when the 78 plants are built and we need to exit, and we are facing the same problem, just naturally. What do we see? The first thing that we see, it's international foreign investor, so it's just destroyed, it does not exist. There is no such an issue. Just 2/3 of the market is, and we are not taking into account, so the Russian investors only are available. What kind of investors do you have in Russia? Maybe it's just private, non-state, non-government. What's happening with each of these groups as buyers of innovative businesses? So there are serious problems in both. It just we are struggling, so it should be serious Russian business. We are not selling a startup. We are just selling the companies with the sales volume up to $10 billion. Yes, Micron is a good example. Yevtushenkov, the person who created the flagship of the Russian microelectronics, he is buying our shares with a good ERR and at a good price. We built a plant to produce this extra strong springs, and they have 10 million cycles, which is important for building, for construction of the train coaches, and so the owner of the Tikhvin construction wagon bought the company. So, of course, the bargaining is quite a serious procedure. They're all very serious. But yes, the market is shrinking. The foreign players just left the market. No one has calculated the scale of the losses, but still we can survive somehow. State company, more complicated, much more complicated. And to be honest, we have very few examples. Rostech that you mentioned, we built a plant for ion plasma coating for cutting devices, and it's the real production. One of the first few examples. It's just a manufacturing department. We sold it to Saturn successfully. This is a company of Rostech. One or two similar examples I could mention about the state companies, but it's much more complicated, less interest. It's not about the business logics. It's a different logic that they use. And I need to say that this sector of a buyer of the innovative business, of course, just at the very beginning, and this is a large barrier for all of the innovative economy in our country. I believe we have still a lot of time. Let's make a small break, and after that we start the real plenary session. Thank you very much. So, dear colleagues, I'm sorry we have no break. Now we will just